and welcome to News in Depth with me, Ashim Kumar. Russia appears to have identified one of Ukraine's most dangerous vulnerabilities, a severe shortage of Patriot interceptors. As Washington hesitates over new supplies and reverses course on allowing Ukrainian production, Kyiv faces a growing ballistic missile threat. Well, to discuss this, we're joined by Marcin Zaborowski, Europe editor at TVP World. Marcin, great to have you back.
Thank you, Ashim.
Pleasure as always. Now, as usual, we start with a short soundbite and then I'll get your view on that.
Sure.
A little birdie told me this about the fact that we'll give them the right to make Patriots. We'll show them how to do it. It's very complex, actually, but it's you'll figure out the complexity quickly. And we're talking about that, and the company that makes them, which is building now 4 plants, all of our companies will be able to do this in 2 to 3 months. If you order a Patriot, now you have to wait a long time for them. Same thing with Tomahawks. We want missiles too. When Biden gave him so much, Biden gave $300 billion worth of ammunition. Look, we're not involved from the standpoint we're separated by an ocean, but I hate to see 25,000 young people a month get killed.
Right, so here we see pretty much the whole story of the availability of Patriot missiles to Ukraine from the US. The first one, of course, being at the NATO summit in Ankara, and a very different tune being sung here just now. Now, what's going on? What is that story?
Well, I mean, what we saw in Ankara was the face of President Trump playing a good cop, being generous, being forthcoming, being friendly, telling the allies and then telling the Ukrainians that he is actually prepared to grant Ukraine a license to the production of Patriots, which nobody else have in the entire alliance, with the exception of Germany, and to some limited extent Poland. But Poland cannot produce the whole item, the whole product, only parts of it. So even in Ankara, people were a little bit surprised that they were so generous, yeah. But we already were saying that in Ankara, well, perhaps he will change his mind. And here we are. Not only that he said that this is too complex and too difficult matter to be licensed out, so no licenses for no production for Ukraine, but also no deliveries of ready product to Ukraine for the time being. Because
they need it for Iran.
Because they need it for. He wouldn't say that.
No.
Because he can't really say quite openly that they ran out of a product
right.
in Iran, and because of the war that was war of choice and by many seen in the United States as a mistake, that war has consumed the Patriots and other missiles which are necessary for the defense of the allies.
Okay, all right. Now, one thing that struck me in the last part of that soundbite was Trump kind of distancing himself from the whole Ukrainian. There's an ocean between us. In other words, I'm washing my hands of Ukraine. Was that what you were hearing?
Well, yes. I mean, he did say it very explicitly. He said, "This is we are not involved. There is an ocean between us."
Yeah.
So that's what Czechoslovak leaders heard in 1938 after Munich.
Yeah.
And that's what then the British Parliament seemed to be saying in 1938, and that's exactly what the Americans were saying at the beginning of the Second World War, when they were retaining neutrality and being unengaged and uninvolved, and only got involved when they were being attacked themselves by the Japanese in Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, yeah.
So this has a very strong isolationist undertone. And of course it's sending message to the European and other allies that if United States interests are not directly involved, the solidarity that you can expect from the United States might be very limited.
Yeah, but I mean, on the other hand, the US is NATO's biggest member. It can't simply turn its back on other NATO states, can it?
Well, of course, Ukraine is not a NATO member state, so it's a slightly different matter. As regards the Europeans, I mean, that remains to be seen. I mean, on a number of occasions, we have already heard from the United States that, that Article 5, the Article of Mutual Defense, would be applied selectively and wouldn't be really applied in case of, but every case would be seen individually. So it didn't work in automatic way.
Right. See, because that's pretty scary, isn't it? I mean, Putin must be sitting in the Kremlin thinking, wow, that's great. He's kind of backed off now. We can produce missiles at a rate of, 100 a month or whatever, some ridiculous number. We're getting some more from North Korea. And Ukraine has no defences. But it's not just Ukraine. The rest of Europe doesn't have defences either. And Russia considers itself at war with Europe as well.
Well, it's not just Europe. It's the entire network of America's allies, which also concerns the Middle East.
Right.
The allies in the Middle East is the Gulf nations, it's the Saudis.
Yeah.
It's Pakistanis. It's the others.
Yeah.
And also the America's allies in the Far East, meaning in Asia Pacific. So it's the Japanese, it's the Koreans. That administration is pretty much saying that we will, and it was very open about it, we would run a policy of America first and living up to our commitments, judging them on what's good and what's necessary for us.
Right.
And here he did repeat that very openly with regard to Ukraine. He said, it's not really our problem. I mean, there is ocean between us.
Yeah, but also what I was saying was that Europe doesn't have any defence either against these ballistic missiles, and therefore the whole of Europe really is vulnerable to Russian attack.
Well, it's not exactly true that Europe is defenseless. There is stockpiles of interceptors which are protecting against the ballistic missiles. The PAC-3 America-produced interceptors. But there are also European defense companies which are producing missiles which might be capable of performing the same role.
Right.
It's just like that for Europeans. It's a new thing that they have to think in those terms.
Right.
So for now, the industrial capacities are nowhere near where they should be.
Right.
So they're not ready. They're not geared towards the war scenario, but they're geared towards sort of a deterrence scenario.
Yeah.
It's with the view of, well, we should have some symbolic number of interceptors so that the Russians would not threaten us.
Right.
But we are not ready for war at this point in time. And also the Europeans have been, for example, Poland has been given away has been transferring to Ukraine number of interceptors because Ukraine has completely run out of what it had.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, a minute ago you mentioned various countries in Asia, I mean, Turkey, Saudi, and Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. And those three countries are now also forming an alliance. What's behind that? Well,
it's the same thing. Only today, the three nations, meaning the three Sunni nations, meaning Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, they formed an alliance which is based on the same criteria as NATO. So meaning the key element of this alliance is that an attack on one of its members will be considered an attack on all of its members.
And of course Turkey is a NATO member.
And of course Turkey is a NATO member. Here the fact that NATO members and other American allies are deciding to form this kind of alliances outside of NATO suggests that there are serious doubts about the reliability of American security guarantees. So that's one of the reasons, and the other reason is that, for example, right now Saudi Arabia is actually under fire and is attacked constantly by Iran, which is a Shia nation.
Right. So actually, okay, theoretically, let's follow this through. If there's, the Article 5 type protection between these three countries, next time Iran fires a missile at Saudi Arabia, does that mean Turkey has to respond?
Well, the current alliance between three nations was preceded by the alliance of two nations, meaning Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. They signed this bilateral alliance about a year ago, and there is already a tangible consequence of that. So, meaning that there are 13,000 Pakistani troops now already stationed in Saudi Arabia. As a consequence of that, there's also a battery of missile defense, and there are a number of 16 fighter jets, Pakistani fighter jets, who have been flown to Saudi Arabia. For now, they are not being used in combat, but they are used as a backup, and they being used as a deterrent.
Right.
So logically, one would expect that Turkey would be doing the same thing now.
And they've got the largest army, or second largest army in NATO.
And they also have very developed defense industry.
Right.
For example, drone production, one of the best drones in the world.
Right.
The
Shahed.
The certain
sorry.
Bayraktar. Shahed is Iranian.
Shahed is Iranian, yes.
So it's Bayraktar.
Yeah.
So actually, between these three nations, when we look into them, Pakistan is a nuclear power.
Right.
Saudi Arabia has a considerable number of financial means, and Turkey has the largest land-based army in Europe.
Yeah.
If we consider Turkey Europe.
Right.
At this point in time. So and also this very developed defense industry. So it's quite a powerful alliance.
Very powerful.
It remains to be seen whether it delivers on its word, because it's what happened today is an agreement was being signed. But whether it actually leads to some tangible results, that remains to be seen.
Or something kinetic, as I say, will Turkey step in if Iran continues bombing? So looking at it from a slightly different perspective, what we're actually saying is, because the motivation behind Saudi joining was the fact that they were being attacked by Iran. But so is the US being attacked by Iran, US bases in the Middle East and so on. So in a strange kind of way, they're on the same side as the US when it comes to Iran.
Yes, but traditionally US will be the organizer, will be the patron nation in the Gulf.
Right.
And you would have all these Gulf nations, the Emirates, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar. All these nations will be basically the junior partners in that kind of alliance, and the United States will be the provider of security.
Yeah.
And clearly the Saudis decided that they no longer can truly rely exclusively on America's engagement and involvement in the security of Saudi Arabia itself, and that they need to look beyond that. And that's why they reached out to Pakistan about a year ago. As I said, they signed a bilateral agreement. There are already consequences of that in terms of the strategic presence of Pakistan in the area, and now Turkey is being drawn in. Actually, Turkey has lobbied to be involved in that for a long time. Since these two nations signed the bilateral agreement. So it looks like that all of these three nations decided that that United States is good to be on good terms with the United States, but it could not be the
relied upon.
The only guarantee that we have out there.
Turkey must also be a bit kind of confused in one sense. Are they with NATO or are they with, in other words, is there a potential conflict of interest there for Turkey?
Not because of this alliance, because both Saudi Arabia and Pakistan are on very good terms with the United States.
Right.
So it's more like it's complementary, I would say. But a few years back, they wouldn't have thought about it. They would think that our security rests on our engagement and involvement of the United States. Now they think it's just not enough.
Not necessarily. So, okay, I'd like to then get your view on Iran. Clearly, Trump seems to be stuck. He's running out of Patriot missiles, interceptors. He is not getting anywhere, strategically speaking, with bombing Iran. There hasn't been a change in government. The IRGC is still there. The Supreme Leader is still there, and so on. Where does Trump go to now? I mean, he seems to be losing allies in Europe and even in the Middle East. They're looking elsewhere. What happens to Trump's Middle East policy when it comes to Iran?
Well, the policy clearly has been unsuccessful. Probably our viewers mostly forgot about it, but when this war started, Donald Trump was saying the pessimistic scenario is that it would last for 4 weeks.
Right.
And it started in February this year.
Right.
So, more than half a year has passed since, and we are still nowhere near the end of this conflict. So he clearly miscalculated a number of items. One of them being, in fact, the availability of munition. As he announced that Ukraine wouldn't be getting Patriots from the United States, he also, on the same conference, he was saying, well, that actually we don't have a shortage of ammunition, but we do need whatever we can put our hands on.
Right.
And there are leaks which have been published in Washington Post, and not only that, he's been absolutely furious with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth for being misled about the amount of strategic munitions that the United States still has. Fact of the matter is now that the United States actually produces less interceptors than Ukraine needs. And what we are talking about is about the production. United States basically produces 620 interceptors per year. And Russia is able to, and that's what it's been doing, has been firing over 100 ballistic missiles per month.
Right.
So Russia fires more than the entire production of United States can do to stop it.
Yeah.
And of course we're talking about the needs of the United States itself, about the needs of Ukraine and all the other allies. So we clearly need to ramp out our overall Western production of interceptors.
Indeed, and Trump clearly needs to find a way out of this before he runs out of Patriots altogether. Marcin, unfortunately, the clock has beaten us, but thank you as always for sharing your analysis with our audience. And that brings us to the end of this episode News in Depth. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.